Survivor specialist Phil and Alexa are back with another one of our season 40 winner retrospectives. And today we are joined by Ciera Eastin from Survivor Blood versus Water and Survivor, Game Changers and Survivor Second Chance. I wanted to do them in order, and then for some reason my mind went straight to Game Changers. So that happened. Okay. But she's here to talk about, what was that?
The worst one.
I know. I'm sorry. That was the one I should have just left off, right? It's like Game Changers. But she's here to talk all about Tyson Apostol, and you're probably going to be talking about a couple other people because there's a lot of people on this season that you've played with. We have Tony, Jeremy, Sarah. You've played with a lot of people here.
Yeah, I know. I've been super fortunate that I get to play with all these like amazing people, let alone all these like amazing winners. So I'm excited to kind of give my 2 cents for what it's worth. And I'm excited. I'm so excited for the season in general. And then like having these connections with all these people, I'm so interested to really see like how this all unfolds and how it plays out.
Yeah, and I think that's been the most exciting part of this whole thing is that we all know so far in advance because with Game Changers and Second Chances, we knew and then you all flew out. And then Game Changers, we really didn't know who exactly was there. But this, we know the 20 people who are going to be playing. We've known, the tribe divisions, we have the link up right now. It was from August 7th. So it's been months that we've even known the tribe division. So it's really cool that we know so much about the season going in. And I feel like everybody's trying to figure out like, oh, what happened and who went out early and who didn't. But knowing that kind of like, there could be Edge of Extinction, there could be these other twists. I don't feel like any of it means anything. This is going to be really fun.
Yeah, it's hard to like really predict what's going to happen, honestly. And even more weird, I was just thinking about this the other day, that we haven't really been spoiled on anything, which is great. At least I haven't. And I try and like stay off stuff like that. But sometimes I can mistakenly come across something. I love how it's just kind of been a little hush hush. Like we do know a lot, but at the same time, we don't know anything. So I'm excited to hopefully it stays like that and we can get on there and see what happens.
Well, and I think that when they're the winners, not only are they the best players of the game, they're also the best at playing the game afterwards, where we have like Wendell taking pictures, posing with like his really small arms. So it's like, well, what does this mean? And then 2 days later, it's Edge of Extinction is going to be on this season and it means nothing. And like everybody's trying to figure out how much weight did everyone lose. But I feel like this cast, there's no way any of them are slipping up and telling anyone a thing.
Oh, totally. I think that's so true. And then also like the whole weight loss thing is really hard because it's like, I remember on my first season, I lasted 38 days and I only lost 1 pound.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, I remember coming home and everybody's like, oh, she looks the exact same. So she didn't do well. And then vice versa, I like had my on Game Changers, this was actually a good one. I actually came back like heavier because I was voted out so early. I pretty much just like drank too much and like ate too much food at Ponderosa. So like I showed up and my mom's like, well, you didn't starve yourself on an island for very long. And I'm like, no, I'm not telling you anything. But sometimes it's hard to go based off of that. But I do think it's true when you have these people who have, done it before, been there, done that. They know better than to, give themselves away too easily or, they want to kind of keep everybody in anticipation, I think. So we all want to watch, we all want to stay tuned, and we all want to know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we've had instances in the past with people like Penner who have put on more weight purposely before they go out there. So, somebody like Michelle, I remember the one, and I'm using air quotes for anybody who's only going to be listening to this, but the one spoiler we got was from Scott Pollard, who said, I saw a picture of Michelle and she didn't look that much skinnier. And I'm like, but we don't know like how big was she before she went out, like, and also like her body type, how much weight was she going to lose compared to Korong, where we're like the worst conditions survivors had. Of course, she's going to lose a lot there, but in Fiji, we're recording this after the Jamal boot, and Jamal lost like I think 16 pounds or something like that, which wasn't that crazy for how long he lasted and how little it looked like he ate. So I don't know. It's really hard to tell.
That's such a good point too. The conditions do have a lot to do with it. where you're at, what season you're on. So maybe like in prior seasons, it was like you could tell a lot more because conditions were a little worse. But I do think Fiji, they're very fortunate. Conditions are mild. It's very plentiful. There, you can find things to eat, the coconuts, things in the ocean, things like that. So I do think that it's hard to predict. Like nowadays, it's a lot harder to predict based on weight loss.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking about Tyson here, who I think is one of those people that if he did lose weight, we all really wouldn't be able to tell because he's so tall and skinny anyway. So, yeah, and this was the season that you went the furthest and somehow only lost 1 pound. It was the season where Tyson wins in Blood versus Water. What are you thinking for Tyson's chances, being that he's played 3 times and it was the most recent time that he played that he won?
I have like such confidence in Tyson as a player and as a person. So I feel like maybe I'm a little biased because I love him so much, but I think his shot is good. I mean, he's a recent player, sure, but really like not that recent. There are some big winners after him. I mean, if you're really looking at, the roster and people who are out there, I mean, who else is out there? Michelle and Wendell and Jeremy, and there are big targets who have won the game since he's won. So I almost wonder if he will maybe slip under the radar a little bit to start off at the beginning. That wouldn't totally shock me, but I think his chances are good. I also know he is such a chameleon. Like he's so able to blend in and kind of be friends with anybody and everybody. And I think there are bigger targets out there than Tyson. I think they're foolish because I think Tyson is probably the biggest target, honestly, in my opinion. But I think I think he'll be able to swing by at least for a while and do well. Like I said, he is just such a chameleon. So I just don't see him struggling earlier in the game. I think he'll have no problem. He does great in the challenges. He's super physically fit. He helps provide for the camp a lot. You want those people around early on. And I would be so shocked and blown away if he was an early boot. Watch, I say that now, and then it's going to happen. And we're all like, what the? I would be so shocked.
Yeah. Well, he actually, now that you said that, I'm looking at the list. He is smack dab in the middle in terms of like season number as a winner. So people aren't going to look at him the way they're looking at Ethan, who won 18 years ago.
2001.
Yeah. Or Nick, who won 18 months ago. So I think him being in the middle will totally help him blend in.
Yeah, and I it's 9 winners that have played since him. So I know, like Alexa, you said smack dab in the middle, but 9 winners, and Tyson was on 27 when he won, and they put 9 winners since then on this season. That's pretty crazy, but I still think Tyson, he's such a big face in the community. But then you have other people like Rob, Sandra, Parvati, who are bigger faces than him. So he's smack in the middle of this seasons, but he's also kind of smack in the middle of threat level and all of that too, if that makes sense.
I 100% agree. He doesn't really stick out. I don't think as like this, in my mind, when I'm naming players or when people are naming winners to me, it's not like he's not one that everybody's like thinking, oh, Tyson. There are just so many other players. I mean, even Sandra, who was also now just coming off hot of, this last season. So her and Rob, I just wonder kind of like where their mindset is a little bit. And if that puts, I don't know, a little bit of a target on them. But I guess, and I know these people knew they had just got done filming. I mean, they had to have filmed back to back. Right. So there's so many elements to take into this, but Tyson really is just smack dab in the middle. And not to mention the relationships I know he has with some of these other winners. He's pretty well-rounded. I'm trying to think of somebody I think doesn't know him. And I don't know if I can think of one because since he is in the middle, all these older players, I mean, when he played in Tocantins and then in Heroes Villains, he got to play with so many of these people. And then not to mention meet some of the really early players like Ethan. And then nowadays he's out, you see him playing poker and doing all these things with the new people. So he's just kind of a face of all generations, I feel like. And he really does like bridge that gap of old school, new school. And I think that's going to do him really, really well because part of the struggle, I feel like, especially nowadays, is that old school, new school balance. Those people who play super fast, super hard, a little more strategic versus the let's keep the tribe strong, let's be loyal. And Tyson really is the perfect balance of that. And he has experience kind of in both ways.
And it's what's really cool about this is right now we are talking to one of the most popular new school female strategic players in Survivor in terms of new school. But
Thanks.
you were on a season won by Tyson, who played a season before Russell even came in and changed the way the game was played with all of the idols and everything. So he bridges that gap so perfectly, because he kind of, and then he plays a season before Russell, then plays a season with Russell, and then he plays a season after. And I'm not trying to sit here and say that Russell is what we need, but I always look at when Russell played, that changed the game completely and turned it from a social game to a completely strategic, idol crazy game. Tyson's played on all sides of those.
Yeah, I think that is such a good point. I think that's so true. He really has been able to experience all of play. And I do really think it really shifted at Russell and people realizing hey, I can win this game and not necessarily be winning every single challenge, or not necessarily be, providing for the camp, or not necessarily even be the most liked, honestly, because, Russell wasn't the most liked, not only just on your TV screen. He made it to the end and he didn't win. So he clearly wasn't, but it just created a different strategy. And it was so new and kind of revolutionary, honestly. And Tyson is just right in there, watching it happen, playing while it's evolving, and then bringing him into Blood vs. Water. That's a whole nother type of game that nobody can say they've played. I mean, Tyson is going to be the most prepared, I believe, to play with not only winners, because there were winners on our tribe, but people who have relationships outside the game. We talk about pre-gaming and how well people know each other. And then when you get in the game, does that matter? And how do you balance that pre-game, not necessarily pre-game alliance, but people who know each other and have history with each other outside the game? And Tyson is the most prepared, because of Blood vs. Water, to navigate a situation like that.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Because he plays on a season where there's actual loved ones, and on this season there's a pair of loved ones with Boston Rob and Amber both being on the season. He's starting with Amber, which I knew they were going to have to do, because his relationship with Boston Rob is just too front and center in the Survivor community with their poker world. And I think that just too well known. So I like that they put Tyson with Amber, but at the same time, if he's that close with Boston Rob, Amber's an extension of Boston Rob. And they didn't start him with Jeremy, but there's enough extensions throughout this cast. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that typically that would make me nervous for Tyson. And I would say that's going to be a big target on his back. But realistically, there are so many connections.
So many.
I mean, Tony and Ciera, and we know that Natalie and Jeremy.
They're starting on the same tribe, Natalie and Jeremy.
Yeah.
Kind of shocking.
Yeah. Shocking. So I'm just saying there's so many others. Maybe that won't be that big of a huge deal. It's not like he's the only one out there who has these connections. I think everybody's thinking it. And I don't know if that will necessarily be a platform of let's vote somebody out because we know they know them outside the game. Everybody knows everybody outside the game. So
yeah,
I think you're right. I think everyone is so connected that it'll almost cancel itself out, except for Rob and Amber, obviously.
Yeah. That transcends the game.
Yeah, exactly. So Tyson's starting tribe is Amber, Kim, Sandra, Sarah, Sophie, Yule, Wendell, Tyson, Tony, and Nick Wilson.
Oh gosh.
At first glance, this is the tribe that I like. The other tribe, I feel like there's so many inroads, and this one I feel like it has Yule, who won and then wasn't a gigantic part of the community, and Sophie, who I think people haven't seen a ton of. So this tribe, I'm a little more interested in just how everyone's going to work.
Totally. I definitely also know that Kim Spradlin and Tyson are close as well. But yeah, that's a really interesting tribe. Tony and Sandra both played with me on Game Changers. And I know what their relationship's like. So that's actually probably the most thing I'm excited to kind of see how they treat each other and how close they act, because definitely after Game Changers, we were all really close, and we traveled through Vietnam together and you get so close to these people. So I know their relationship, but that's an odd tribe. It really is.
Yeah, and we're putting Tony with his two biggest adversaries from his first season. Sandra and him butted heads the whole time. Him and Sarah were famous for butting heads in their season. But then you also have Tyson and Sandra, who are in an alliance together on Heroes versus Villains. And Nick and Wendell, they're back-to-back winners. And I know that doesn't mean anything necessarily, but everybody goes to everybody's finales and everybody goes to everybody's little like after party, especially when it's still technically your year, your season. Everybody keeps face. I mean, we just did a predictions episode with Brett LaBelle and he's like, I'll see you at the finale. And now he played in 33 and he's still coming around to all these things. So I think that there's so many connections. I do think though somebody like Sophie and somebody like Yule might have a little bit of trouble. This is where when we talked to Troyzan, he started saying like, oh, I have my Troyzan alliance, which Kim, he thinks is going to get in with Sarah and Tony and Sandra because Troyzan knows all of them. Now, whether or not Troyzan is as powerful as he thinks he is when he's sitting on his couch at home, we don't know, but it's an interesting point. That could be Kim's in.
Yeah. You know what else too? I'm like on a typical season, if this were any other season, the outliers to me, the Sophies and the Yules, I typically would say I think would fare better. And the only reason is because I do believe a lot of times these relationships actually get in the way of gameplay. I mean, I think just history has proven that. But like we just talked about, in a season like this where everybody has them, I don't think that's going to be the case. So it could be true that somebody like Sophie or Yule not having any of these and maybe being out of the loop for a little while, they might struggle more. Not to mention it's been a while since they both played. And I think a huge part of it really is the game has picked up a lot. Like the game has picked up a lot. Like even in the last, I would say like 5 seasons, it's picked up. So, and obviously that's been progressive over, a long period of time. But I believe the last time they played, it was a lot slower moving game. So I'm wondering if they're going to be able to, keep up with the speed of the game's played at. And that's for any player who's played, I would say even before. I mean, I'm saying 27 because that was my first season, and that's what I really felt. But I didn't really feel the pickupness until Second Chances. But I had nothing to compare it.
Yeah, but with 27, that was a season. That was one of the. We went on such this bad streak of Survivor where there was just pagonging after pagonging after pagonging, and Sophie won one of those seasons. And really, if you think about what Yule did, being in the I-2-4, he really also won a season that was pagonging. It was just the reverse. It was the 4 people taking out all 8 of the others before taking out one of their own. And that's the type of season that Sophie won. And then it was really when Blood versus Water came that kind of stopped, because even in 26, Cochran just was able to run the game with his people, and he didn't necessarily vote out one tribe before the other, but he was able to keep his alliance intact the entire time. Now that doesn't, week to week alliances are breaking up and shifting, and it's the whole, Ciera, help me out because I literally am blanking on the name, but I know it was what was in Second Chances. Thank you. That was not even me setting you up. I really could not think of the word voting block.
It happens.
Thankfully, we're doing this with you.
Cool.
Yeah.
But that's how people right now. Voting blocks are normal.
Right. I mean, nowadays it's like they're like alliances are shifting every time you watch the show. Every episode's a different group of alliance. And you don't really know where it's going to go. Whereas in the old days, you'd watch it and it was like, you kind of could predict it for a while. I mean, you could predict the next 4 or 5 voting, what was going to happen. Nowadays, it's just so different. So any season, let alone a winter season, I do worry about any returning players who have played a long time ago. Typically, it's too fast of a pace to keep up. Even in Second Chances, playing with Terry Dietz, I use him as an example. He's he's a great person, amazing player, but he definitely is a more slow moving, loyal player, which is great. And there's a time and a place for it, and it can be so well, but it's really hard in those conditions, I think, to navigate your alliances.
Yeah, and it's funny because Terry can win season 12. He can't win season 38 or season 39, I don't think. Maybe he could win season 38 because he could do what Chris Underwood did and just win his way back into the game. But
that's what he would have to do.
That's what he would have to do. And Terry's somebody who could do that. But yeah, most of his confessionals and Second Chances were, I'm learning the social game. And it's like, oh, Dad, that's so cute. Yeah. But we don't really have that. And I do think that somebody like Ethan, coming in, he's the oldest winner on this season, not in terms of age, but in terms of when he played. he's so competitive and has definitely been paying such close attention that I don't worry too much for Ethan figuring this out because of just who he is. And I think they did a good job with the old school people they got. You know, you have Danny Boatwright, who is just a competitor. That's what she is. So I think that she'll be able to pick it up. But those first couple episodes, it might be hard to come in playing as fast and as hard as you need to play when you never have done it before.
Yeah, I think it's gonna somebody like Danny Boatwright or Ethan, that's such a good example. They are competitors, so there is that potential that more of a potential that they do pick it up and they run with it. But the struggle is going to be getting through those first 3 votes and really getting your momentum and figuring it out. I think is going to be the struggle.
Right.
Yeah.
And those two, Sandra doesn't count because Sandra's played more recently, but those two and Amber have Danny played with an immunity idol in the season, but those 3 have never held an immunity idol. So that's like wild to me that entire section is just not part of their games.
Yeah, I think that Amber is going to struggle. That's my vote. I couldn't see her really. I don't know. It's been so long, like you said. I don't think she has the spirit for it. But I've never played with her. I've never met her, but that's just what my gut's telling me. Cause it's just such a high intensity, fast paced group. I kind of see her falling behind a little bit.
Yeah. And I think with
that tribe's a little iffy to me.
It's a weird tribe.
Lot of targets on that tribe, but Amber should be the biggest target aside from Boston Rob, because until one of them goes home, that's a guaranteed pair. And maybe that doesn't hurt the game too much in final 20 because there's so many people and it's okay. If we have Rob and Amber on our side, we have 2 votes. But once you start getting down to 15, 14, 13, you got to really start considering getting rid of them. So I think Amber kind of has an unfair target on her back because in any other season, if Amber comes into it with the resume Amber has and Boston Rob is not there, Amber is like a lock to get the Kimmy Kappenberg like final 5, final 6 spot. But because she has Boston Rob there, nobody's gonna be able to overlook that.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for her, honestly.
Yeah.
For both of them, because they do have each other, but really for her, I think she's going to struggle the most. But yeah, that'll be I keep saying that'll be an interesting thing to see play out, but honestly, everything is. I'm thinking like we were talking about Tony and Sandra to me is going to be Tony and Sarah. And I'm also super interested to see how Tony and Tyson interact, obviously knowing them each separately and from separate occasions. And I've never actually been around them together. I could just kind of see them rubbing heads a little bit. Tony is just so kind of in your face, kind of loud, kind of crazy, like a best guy, solid guy, has a very different gameplay than Tyson. Tyson's like so methodical in everything he does. And he really thinks every move through, where Tony is a little more like fly by the seat of his pants, like maybe gets lucky occasionally. He definitely has strategy in there, and I think it's good strategy, but a lot of the times I think he's just getting lucky. So, but Tyson is so thoughtful. So I just really could not see them working together. I could just not see their methods of thinking really like aligning. So we'll see.
I think it's going to be the Yules and the Wendells and the Kims, like the people who can make everyone else around them calm. They're going to be kind of the glue that keeps whatever portion of that tribe together. Because I think you're right. I think Tony and Tyson and Sandra and Sarah could just explode. I think that's just crazy. And I can't wait to watch it.
And Tyson has the worst kind of personality for somebody like Tony because he's so sarcastic and so dry. And somebody like Tony would rather react than think about what's going on. And if Tyson can get under his skin, I could see Tony getting like really agitated by him and not being able to control it, despite the fact that Tyson isn't doing it. Tyson just doing it because that's who Tyson is. But I also think that Tony's not going to ever be like, oh, he's just kidding. It's going to be, man, he's really taking shots at me or something. And Tyson's going to get under his skin.
Oh, yeah. That is such a great perspective, because I definitely, knowing them both, could see that happen. We, when we were doing traveling for after Game Changers were voted out, and I remember sitting at the Ponderosa and all these guys are joining me. It was like Tony and then Caleb and Malcolm. And I'm just sitting there. I'm the only girl. So Tony is like the most competitive person you'll ever meet ever. And he can really like dish out the jokes with you, but he cannot take the joke. It's like, you dish it out, dude. You got to be able to take it. And so him and Caleb would go back and forth. And I think it's so true that Tyson is constantly dishing it out in a very dry, sarcastic way that I could see Tony just being like, I can't handle this guy, and maybe taking it a little personal and not really understanding that humor. So, yeah, that is going to be so exciting.
I'm now so excited to watch Tony and Tyson play together.
That changes everything.
Because I never thought about it that way, but Tyson, I mean, Tyson is so biting. I mean, even back in Tocantins when he's talking to Debbie and he says something to her and she's like, really? And he's like, I just lied straight to your face, and doesn't even smile, doesn't do, it's just so monotone. And if you don't get that, you hate that. If you get it, you think it's hilarious. But if you don't get it, and especially if you're as type A, as gung-ho as Tony is, I want to see it. I'm ready. I think Sandra and Tyson, though, they're going to be spitting like fire at each other the entire time. I'm excited for that.
I'm so excited for that. And I think like Tyson, I have so many people ask me all the time. They're like, is he as big of an asshole as he seems like he is on TV? And I'm like, no, yes and no. I mean, he's to your face, but he's joking. Like Tyson really is just like, if you don't understand his humor, there's gonna be issues there. And the more you're around him, the more endearing, and like you realize he is just a really all around kind, good guy. And then meeting Rachel, his wife. So I got to play with Rachel, and I'm like, how do you live with this person? Like Rachel, how is this like how do you get along? And now I've spent time with them both, and they're both just very goofy. And really actually have the same kind of humor, but Rachel thinks Tyson is so funny, which is so great. It's like Tyson really needs somebody to like laugh at his jokes like she does. But yeah, his humor is just a really hard one to get. And he can kind of has the same quality that Tyson has, where he can tell you something mean to your face and people will just laugh or people excuse it. Like, you know, thinking, oh, he's just joking. Or Sandra can say something very blunt and they're like, oh, she's the queen. Who cares? She could say it. Whereas if anybody else said something like that, it would be a huge deal. So they're almost able to get away with like murder in that sense, that like you kind of dismiss it as joking, or you dismiss it as like, oh, she's the queen. I don't know if they'll be able to do that on a season like this, where kind of everybody's a big deal. Everybody, you know, has that personality.
Yeah, and it was funny because Tyson and Rachel were on Marriage Boot Camp. I don't know if you ever watched that, but they were on that together.
That season.
And so my friend was watching it for some reason that I'm not sure I'm allowed to say, but he was watching Marriage Boot Camp. And we're watching Tyson and Rachel, and knowing how Tyson was on Survivor, every time they were supposed to do something serious, when Tyson would say it, I'm like, is he being sarcastic? Is he joking? Like, I know that we're getting this soundbite and it sounds very serious, but this is exactly how he sounds when he's also making fun of something. And I could not tell, in the entire time I was just like, Tyson being on this show is the funniest thing in the world because it's like the least serious show in the world. And then you have Tyson, of all people, representing Survivor on it.
Yeah, and you have to know that they probably thought Tyson was like the biggest dork ever, and they were probably like, where did we get this guy? Like, I mean, I could just see them making, like, those producers probably just being irritated by Tyson and being like, come on, dude, like, we need you to be serious for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Can you just give us like a good 3-second clip? And
he can't. Well, he can give you gold whenever you need it. It's just going to be what he wants to give you.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no telling him what to do or what to say. Like, and honestly, what comes out of his mouth is such gold. He's like so quick and so witty, and that's like such part of his charm is that he does say these things that you're just like, where do you think of this stuff? And it makes for great entertainment at camp. I remember being on Blood vs. Water, and he was just so funny, and I had everybody smiling and laughing. But then on the same token, a side that maybe you don't see of Tyson as much on Survivor, but really does happen out there, Tyson's also the most caring person, and he really did take time to really like really love on people. And I know it sounds really not in a creepy way, but like he would like Monica was like really needing attention, right? On our season. She just was like somebody who really needed coddling and she really needed validation. And Tyson is so good at really like building these relationships. And he would make time for Monica like almost every day and go and just say like, how are you? I know you miss your family. And that is a strength that maybe you don't see as much, but that is such a huge part of his charm, that he is very sincere. And that helps his game a lot. But you don't see it a lot. So it's kind of like people don't understand him as much based on what you watch on TV.
And one of his most underrated scenes is when he's with Coach in Heroes versus Villains, and Coach is having his breakdown, and it's funny because it's Coach and everybody wants to make fun of Coach, but Coach is doing the, why doesn't anybody like me? What is it? And Tyson just straight up says to him, don't tell your stories around the campfire. Nobody believes them. Don't do this. But it's in such a sincere, like, I'm really trying to help you and I really like you, Coach. And I think that that's why we also all like Tyson. I think that's why people get along with Tyson, is because what he's saying is kind of what we all are thinking, but don't have the guts to say. And I go back to In Blood versus Water when Colton quit. And one of Tyson's like most biting confessionals is just after that, when he's like, I don't want to be as miserable as Colton when this is over. Like, I don't want this to ruin my life the way it's ruined Colton's life. And it's Tyson saying it. If it was anybody else saying it, you'd be like, wow, they're kind of being too hard on him. But when it's Tyson, you just let it go and you say, that's exactly how I wish I could have put it.
Yeah, he did. He says things we all want to say, but we can't say. That is so very, very true. And that's one of his greatest, honestly, his greatest assets. And he's such a well-rounded player. Like one of the most well-rounded players, I think. Not only is he a threat like in challenges, he's can do puzzles. He's a great swimmer. He's great at rallying a team. I mean, he is an asset to a tribe in challenges. He has the strategic mind, which we've all seen in Blood vs. Water. And he is the social game where people really like him and are drawn to him. He is just so well-rounded and so smart. And I've obviously talked a lot of Survivor with Tyson. We're contact a lot, and I go visit him and Rachel a lot. And so we'll talk about seasons that are on, or have you seen this? And to hear his perspective on things during a season, it's like kind of like it's just a fresh perspective. Like he says things that I'm like, I never thought about that, or how come I didn't think that, or you're right, we should do that. And I remember when I was going up for Game Changers, he called me and he's like, okay, do this, don't do that. I remember going out to play Game Changers and being like, having Tyson's voice in my head of like all this list of things I was like supposed to do and like not supposed to do. I'm like, okay, Tyson's the best, so I just do this, not that, but such a fresh perspective on things, and he sees things I don't see.
And I think a lot of that has to do with on his first season, he was so awful to Ciera that that's ultimately what got him voted out, is because it wasn't funny. Like, or at least I mean, I won't lie, I laughed, but most people did not find it funny because it was so over the top. But I think that losing helped him. And then losing the way he did the second time with the hot dogs, and then now he goes and he plays the third time and he wins it. I think that those learning experiences helped him. And I could see Tyson easily. Originally, when I had written this out, as soon as I heard the cast, I wrote down the order I thought everybody was going to finish before anybody could come back, before you get any wind of anything. And I had Tyson in 15th place. And then the more I've thought about it, and even talking to you, it's reaffirming it. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, why would he get 15th? I think he's a threat, but the only reason he got voted out the second time was because Russell was desperate and made this insane move. Right. If that doesn't happen this time, there's no way they're voting Tyson out, because everybody's going to want to keep around somebody that fun that isn't just like, I know you said he's calculating, but he's not a game bot. He's not just going to be there 100%. This has to be strategy all the time, which I think will be nice.
No, I think you're totally right. And it's true. He is not, he's smart and calculating and strategic, but he's not a game bot. Like,
no,
majority that you have some free time out there. If you didn't, I feel like they'd be a really boring camp. So you're going to want to keep that good spirit and that good energy up. And, but yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that it's going to be so crazy to see how 15th place, There's no way. If that happens, I'm gonna be eating my words. I feel like he has to make the jury. There's no doubt in my mind. He's too smart. He's in too good of a position, and he won't screw it up. Another thing is in Blood vs. Water, Tyson does really with like something like motivate him. And when Rachel went home in Blood vs. Water, you almost saw like a ding go off, and it was like he wasn't gonna lose. Like there was like not an option for him, and he was doing it for Rachel. And I know him well enough on a personal level today to know that leaving his daughters is and was very hard for him, and having that motivation and then having kids of my own and kind of knowing how that motivates people. And there are other people out there with children as well, but knowing how Tyson reacts to stuff like that and that drive and that push, he is not going to waste his experience. And I just would be so blown away if he were an early boot like that.
Mm-hmm.
Alexa, ask away.
Yeah. So one question we've been asking everybody is, where do you think like your person will place? And so you said like Tyson's going to make the jury. You had like, give us a number. Is he going to win? Is he Final Four? Where do you think at the end of the day Tyson's going to fall?
Oh man,
I know. I think you're right. I think he, as much as he's a threat, I've said this about every single person. There's so many other people in front of him. So I think you're on the right track with Jerry.
I think that I'm rooting for him to win it. I feel like he's definitely going to make the jury. I'll give him maybe like 6, any from like realm.
All right.
But then again, you don't know what kind of twist they're going to be presented with. What if there's a Redemption Island or you don't really know, so it's such a hard thing for me to predict. But I know he'll make it to jury. I just like can't. I know he will. I just have a feeling that has to happen. And
he's somebody with edge of extinction that could win his way back in so easily because he's so good at challenges. Yes,
that is, and honestly, that might be where he does better. Like, because it's almost like he can go and he can win. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that's almost easier for him. Like, it's like, send me there and let me do that.
Yeah, let me
if there is a twist like that or something comes where they could win their way back in and Tyson is an early vote, he had no doubt in my mind he would win his way back into a game.
Yeah.
So the other question we asked everybody, if Tyson can't win, or if Tyson's not going to win, who do you think could win?
Who do I think could win?
You only get one name here because we've had people try to get 2 or 3, and then we're like, no, say the person who's your winner of this season if it's not your person.
And just because we really haven't talked about them much, the other tribe is Danny, Denise, Michelle, Natalie Anderson, Parvati, Boston Rob, Jeremy, Ethan, Ben, and Adam.
Okay, I'm going to say, man, this is hard because you're right. I do have multiple people I want to say.
You can talk it through if you want.
Talk it out.
Talking it through. I'm thinking that somebody like Kim Spradlin or Michelle have a good shot of winning, and my mind is just going to. I know that they're both. I kind of think Kim is definitely more good at a challenge beast than obviously Michelle is, but I could see them getting in a really good alliance that takes them to the end. And maybe if somebody pissed somebody off like Tyson or like Tony, made enough people mad, I could see somebody like a Kim or a Michelle winning between the two. But then again, I would love for Tony to win, just knowing him on a personal level as well. But I just couldn't see that happening because I could see Tony making too many enemies. So I'm going to go with Michelle because I think she's and I think that people won't really see challenge or like a threat throughout the entire, like, how can you, not that she wasn't a great winner because she won in her own right. And she played the game she needed to play that got her to the end. But I just don't think it was like the most, she didn't have to play that hard on her season. And so I think people are going to kind of forget about her. And I could see her making good relationships because obviously she's likable. That's why she would get to the end before. And I could see her. She's my vote. Feel good about it.
I love this because like, I'm saying this for you, Ciera. I'm not saying this for our fans because our fans hate me, but I'm the biggest Michelle fan there is in the world. And you're like the 5th or 6th person to pick Michelle. And I'm not paying any survivors to pick Michelle to win. Okay, everybody. Like I'm
Michelle,
not paying
Michelle
them.
and Jeremy have been the two most popular picks.
Really?
But it's funny because every time you all say it.
Obviously, I played with Jeremy too. Why did I forget about Jeremy?
I feel like Jeremy's so obvious. I feel like everyone loves him.
Yeah, right?
Obvious, and I feel like that will be bad for him.
Me too. I feel like he's just a little okay. In my season playing with him, obviously nobody knew that Val was pregnant at that time. So he had a home run with announcing that at the final tribal council. That was like, okay, you win. Like, how great is that? But really, he was very likable, but he was a very obvious threat for that reason. The entire time, everybody knew Jeremy can't go to the end because he'll win. Everybody loves him. He's just like this big teddy bear around camp. And really, people were really stupid, but good on him because he do that. But this season, I just can't. I mean, these players are all winners. They know what it takes to win. And he is like he's pretty much walking around with a sign on him that says like, I'm a winner. So I just see that go that far.
Yeah. No, I love the Michelle pick. That's my winner pick too. So we're in agreement, Ciera. And
5 people.
Is it 5, Alexa? You have it up, right?
Yeah,
I don't have it up.
Okay, we have 1. Close. We have 3.
3. Okay, but then I'm 4, and I kind of count as multiple. And I'm pretty sure Scott said that Michelle could win, but he wasn't allowed to pick Michelle, so we would have had 4.
True.
That's
and I'm 5.
crazy.
Yeah.
I love Michelle. Michelle got kind of I feel like she kind of got a bad rap on her season for just kind of not being a great winner. But honestly, I'm I truly believe that everybody kind of has to play. There's not one win survivor. There's really not. And you kind of have to deal with the cards you're dealt. And I think she's such a perfect, great example of doing that. And she knew what her strengths were and she knew what her weaknesses were. And that's how, if there's a way to win, it's knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, navigating that, win the same way that Jeremy can win. And I can't win the same way that Tyson can win. And I can't win the same way Michelle can win. And so it's like, you kind of do have to know what your strengths are and be able to say like what you're going to do. And that is where she is going to be such a threat. On top of her extremely strong. So yeah, I think that other people said that. I'm not just off on my own in a little la land.
No, Ciera, after saying that whole thing, you can come on our podcast anytime you want. You want to be like a regular on here, all about it, because you love Michelle that much. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. But Alexa, do we have any other questions we need to ask here? Those are always our last 2. Those are our big ones.
Yeah, no, I went into this feeling good about Tyson, but I feel very confident in him after just like talking this through. I think he'll do really well. We say this and now he'll be voted out.
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm glad I could do some convincing for you guys. Yeah, he truly is. I'm going to see him next week, which is really funny for like Thanksgiving time.
Oh, we should have done this the day after that. Then you could have asked him. You could have been like, Tyson, how far did you get? It's kind
of actually like we always go to Arizona. Yeah, let me know. Come on. Throw me a bone.
Yeah. I got to do this podcast. Tell me what place.
I try not to ask people because I literally don't ask people because I don't want to put people in a weird position. And I really like to watch it with everybody. Like to be spoiled would be the worst. What am I going to do for the next 4 months while this is on? Because I already know what happens.
Right.
Completely agree.
It's so much more fun not knowing. And especially like when you're actually friends with them, it's probably so much better.
Yeah, I'm excited.
There you go. Well, Alexa, do you want to take us home then? Ciera, this was awesome. Thank you so much for doing this with us. And thank you for hyping Tyson. This is exactly what we like to hear in these types of things. Just hype the person up as much as you can. So that was fun. And now I'm so excited to watch Tyson play because he was my favorite back in the day.
We're so far away, guys. You still have like 4 months.
I know. It's terrible. It needs to come fast.
How are we going to wait that long? The anxiety is like just killing me. So, but I'm really excited you guys had me on and I'm happy I could maybe do some convincing of people watching that Tyson's, gonna hopefully maybe go all the way, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening, it is Monday, November 18th. So this cast has not actually been announced yet. But as soon as this is released, I know all the Tyson winner picks are going to go up. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen to us on iTunes and Spotify or YouTube, whatever you're into. And we'll be back with a couple more of these. I know we've kind of been recording them here and there, but these have been a lot of fun. I'm super excited for the season. And Ciera, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm so glad to be a part of it and excited to see how it plays out.
Thanks, Ciera.